All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be breaking down all the top prop bets in the NBA on this Friday. Let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to start out here with the Boston versus Lakers game. The biggest question mark that we have is really, are Jaylen Brown and Luka Doncic going to be active in this game? Luka sat out last night's game for personal reasons. Both teams are on the back end of a back-to-back, so worth calling out there. We don't know the status of them. I would assume that they're both going to end up playing, just given the fact that it was a back-to-back, and that's maybe why they ended up sitting. But it is worth calling out, guys. Jaylen Brown was out on Thursday with the illness. So again, we don't necessarily know if he's going to be active or not, still up in the air. So guys, to me, without any injuries, there's not necessarily any injuries that we can confirm. Okay, there's not necessarily any bets that we can go out of our way to necessarily target. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort by best bets and ideal bets. These are the bets that are checking all the boxes via data. Okay, and as we can see, there's not that many then in this game. It's an easy way to reduce the amount of bets that we need to look at for a game. And so what we're going to see is Kada for under 10.5 points is a pretty solid bet overall. The data really likes this bet. We do see that recently his minutes have been kind of fluctuating a decent amount. If he does indeed only get around 24 minutes, that ends up not being a terrible bet. Derek White with Jaylen Brown back, this wouldn't be a terrible bet, but we do see recently has been playing pretty well. Obviously in the last game last night with Jaylen Brown off the court, he was able to go off, so not necessarily a bet that you need to go out of your way, but also not a terrible one. And then I do decently like this bet here for Jaylen Brown to get over 28.5 points. All the data points that we have coming in suggest he should be able to get this over. The underdog line actually has him at 29.5. Another reason why I like this bet is if he ends up sitting, kind of, it'll end up being a DNP and won't really impact our night. We look at the game log, guys, pretty consistently getting that over there as well. And so, yeah, I think I'm okay getting into this bet. We'll go ahead and select that one in there. If you guys are some of the bets on more traditional sites, really not a terrible bet there as well if you can get it at 28.5. And then, guys, let's go ahead and get into the Heat versus Orlando Magic. Okay, so I think I am, for the most part, just going to stick to those bets and ideal bets here, especially for these teams where we don't necessarily know who's going to be active or inactive. So for the Miami Heat, guys, we are waiting on news on Norman Powell and also Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero is currently questionable, stating that he had irritation in his right big toe. Okay, so whatever that means, I don't really know. If he were to end up sitting, that would actually benefit Norman Powell a decent amount, and we'd be wanting to look at his overs. Franz Wagner, guys, he is someone that does draw a decent matchup. This is a pretty high game total as well. I'm a little bit surprised by his recent game log, right? He's only gotten the over once recently. Another interesting tidbit here, guys, and this can end up being a pretty big edge, is if Banchero is back, then this ends up being a pretty good bet for the under for Franz Wagner. And the news on Banchero is that he's questionable with a groin injury. He hasn't played since November 12th. I would kind of assume that he's not going to play, but I think this could end up being a pretty good edge. It could end up being worth it. These are the spots where I typically don't mind getting to, where there's a little bit of injury risk with it, but really still it ends up being a decent edge for us. And we know this line would probably go down to about 32.5 per 30, which is kind of what he averages per 36 with Banchero on the court. So definitely an interesting bet there. I do want to see if we are getting any Norman Powell bets at all, because he is someone that, again, if we're not, if Tyler Hero were to be out, that would actually end up being a very good spot then for Powell. Now, if they both end up sitting, guys, Davion Mitchell is going to pick up a lot of usage, and that is over 8.5 points would end up being a decent bet. This is a game that we want to be targeting because it is higher scoring for sure. We're just not necessarily getting the bets that I love here. Anthony Black has been someone that has been going off recently. He's someone that, if Banchero is out, should continue to play well. But overall, I think we're actually okay passing up on a lot of the bets that we can be getting for this game, which is a little bit unfortunate because, again, I don't mind it. All right, so we'll go ahead and get into Denver here versus Atlanta. So, guys, Jalen Johnson is currently questionable, as well as Kristaps Porzingis. Okay, this really changes the whole game. Obviously, if both of them are active or inactive, that changes the whole game. Now, the fact that we're not getting any Jalen Johnson prop bets and the fact that we are getting Porzingis bets, to me, leads me to believe that Porzingis will be active and that Jalen Johnson will be inactive. And so let's go ahead and just take a peek at Porzingis and what he averages per 36 with Well, Trae Young off the court, but also Jalen Johnson off the court. He averages 25.3 points, 8.1 rebounds, and 4.8 assists. What's surprising is none of those data points are actually all that much higher compared to his average. He does pick up a decent amount of usage, 5% usage bump, and his actual fantasy score goes down per 36 with them off the court, which to me is surprising. Now, this is a pretty good matchup. He should be able to go off, but just because those players are out doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be someone that benefits. So we need to look at some other options here. Who could potentially be the players that benefit? Well, Vitir is actually not a terrible option, I would say. Projecting at 18 minutes, we would need him to get more. His per 36 production actually goes up by 4.5 points per 36. Now, we're not expecting that. He's probably not going to get that. He has been someone that has struggled to shoot the basketball recently as well, guys. 2 for 7, 1 for 4, 1 for 5. Just terrible recently. And so we don't like that there. But you would also argue that, hey, he's due to shoot the basketball a little bit better. This is a higher scoring game, not a terrible matchup. The data gives him a 53% chance to get the over. All in all, I wouldn't hate that bet. Okay, he actually gets the fourth most minutes with those two players off the court. Another player that gets a decent amount of run is going to be Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard, guys, we would really just want to be looking at his points and rebounds, I think, or his points. His points has a almost 54% likelihood to hit. He's someone that, again, we do need the minutes to be up. We see 21, 17 to 15. We do need him to be closer to that 21 minutes, definitely. And he is someone that hasn't been shooting the basketball all too much. He is someone that you would think would be shooting the basketball more than he has. That's one of the things that's actually surprised me about this Atlanta team, with how kind of banged up they've been, that he hasn't been more involved. But honestly, if I'm doing that, I might actually get to his rebounds, points and rebounds. He is someone that sees a decent bump in his rebounds, about 1.7 more rebounds per 36 with Johnson and Trae Young off the court. So really not a terrible bet there. And then Keenan Wallace, we have to mention as well, guys. Keenan Wallace is someone that gets a lot of run with those two players off the court. We're not necessarily getting any great bets for him, but I will say his points is a little bit intriguing. We'd be betting on him to get 5 shot attempts there, basically. This has almost a 51% chance to hit, but also, worth calling out. And so until we get the rest of the news, I don't want to put a bet in there, but I do want you guys to be prepared for that. We can make some educated guesses based off of Jalen Johnson or Porzingis sitting, for that matter. If Porzingis were to sit, that would easily help out all those players that I just mentioned there as well. For Denver, guys, they are still going to be without Braun, Gordon, and Strawthard. The player that I keep telling you guys to be on has been Peyton Watson, and I'm actually surprised that his lines are slowly trickling up throughout this past a couple of weeks now. I think it's finally correct at 20.5 PRA. He has been getting a lot of minutes. He might actually end up getting a little bit more run. And if he does, really not a terrible line. He is coming in off of a poor night shooting, 3 for 9, 1 for 3 from 3, but ended up playing pretty well as a whole there. I would actually not mind getting to his fantasy score. The fact that his PRA is at 20.5, I think his fantasy score will end up at 25.5. And at that line, I'd be comfortable betting on his over. I don't necessarily need to get to any of these bets right now because, again, I think the lines are finally correct on him. And so with that, I feel like all the lines that we are getting here for the Denver Nuggets are basically correct. Jamal Murray, not a terrible over bet. He has been someone that's been playing better, I would say, this whole year. It's a high scoring game. Away games, he actually averages closer to 33.8. All in all, really not a terrible spot to get to. We see all the data points really like this over. Again, if you guys are someone that bets on a more traditional site, not a terrible bet here to get his over 29.5 points and assists. Now, guys, as I'm recording this video, we are getting 2+ EV bets for this game. So we, for PrizePicks purposes, I do need to include these on the bet slip. So we are going to get to J-Val for over his points, 7.5, and then Luke Kennard for over 6.5. Now, those are both bets that I don't see are necessarily locks, even though they're plus EV bets. If the data goes down, those are two bets that I would probably get off of as the day progresses, because I don't necessarily see it, but because Vegas is telling us they're decent bets, we got to get to those. All right, so I want to go ahead now and get into the Portland Trailblazers versus the Detroit Pistons. So the tough part about this game is that Donovan Clingan is currently questionable, as well as Robert Williams and Chris Murray. So I really can't give you guys that much here for Portland at all, honestly. This is a game that is pretty pretty decent risk of being a blowout. I would say 7.5 points. Not a terrible game total. We do see Azar Thompson here. Not a terrible bet for his points and assists. All the data points like is over here. So definitely an interesting bet here. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go again to get back into those best bets and ideal bets, seeing if we're getting any there. And then we'll just move on from this game, because until we get that news from Portland, I really can't give you guys that much. We are seeing Cade Cunningham for under 6.5 rebounds. He has been able to get this over recently. Away games does tend to average the under there. Kind of an interesting spot, I would say. Maybe it's a little bit less run in a blowout. And then we have Denny Avdia for under 40.5 points, rebounds, and assists. This one is both sided here, where if Kling Yang, Williams, and Murray are out, you kind of would expect this game to end up being more of a blowout. But with all those players out, and with Sharp not getting that much run, Drew Holiday still out, like Denny Avdia has picked up a lot of usage and he's playing a lot of minutes. So if the game stays close enough for long enough, you should be able to get this over. So it's definitely double-sided. I don't know if I necessarily need to get to that one, but definitely an interesting line there. And then it is kind of worth calling out. Kamara is someone that, while all these players have been out, has been benefiting the most. This is a bet that I like for, more traditional sites. Again, if you guys are confused, what I mean by that is I'm showing you guys the NBA Prize Picks optimizer right now, which is obviously designed for Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a little bit different with how you go about attacking it, where there's a kind of mathematical edge that you can have on them long term. That's really what we're concentrating on when I'm talking about Prize Picks. I consider that a DFS betting site, and then there's the traditional sites like DraftKings, FanDuel. Most of you guys probably know this, but it is a little bit different how you go about attacking it. And so that's kind of what I mean when I say traditional sites. 51% likely to hit, a better traditional site bet than a DFS bet, because again, DFS sites, we want to be chasing 54% likely to hit. And that's kind of the difficult part about giving betting advice in 2025, just as an FYI. Everyone is playing on a different site. There's even the exchange sites as well. But anyways, Kamara, I do like to get over 22.5 points, rebounds, and assists. This would be a bet on Williams, Kling Yang, and Murray all sitting. Okay, that's what we're hoping for. We do see the projected minutes at 35. We do like that there. And then worth calling out, guys, Grant. Tough to say, because he is someone that, minutes wise, if the game stays close, I wouldn't hate it, but I feel like his lines are a little bit too high. So again, let's probably jump into the next game. I do want to talk about Jalen Duren. I do think he's someone that would benefit if all those players do end up sitting. Game log hasn't been pretty, but he does get a good matchup. It is a high scoring game. I actually would like the over a decent amount here, but he's someone that, again, I probably would want to look at more of his fantasy score if we get it. I don't know what it'd be. It'd probably be 34.5, and then I would like it, but just be on the lookout for that when it drops for Prize Picks. All right, so let's go ahead now and get into the Knicks versus the Utah Jazz. And so I do want to talk about Keontae George. He was someone that was on our bet of the day yesterday, guys. That ended up going 3 for 6 on the day. So start off poorly, and then the later bets ended up hitting, which I guess we'll take that. A little bit annoying there. I would say we're due for a decent day today. I'm pretty interested to see what the fantasy scores are for Prize Picks and Underdog, but Keontae George has been someone that's been going off recently. The biggest question mark with him is always, will he get enough minutes? This is a 15.5 point spread, so we don't like that. 240 game total, though. Tough matchup for him as well, but he is someone that I don't mind riding the hot hand with. The issue would be the DVP matchup as well. If you want to just go with his points, you could do that there as well. These bets all kind of go hand in hand. I probably would just want to get to his over points. I don't hate his over points, rebounds, and assists as well. These are all decent bets. He had one bad game where he played 19 minutes. Other than that, has been pretty darn consistent. He's really the only one I want to get to, although Ace Bailey, we have seen his lines be a little bit too low, relatively speaking, in the last game, guys. 25 minutes, did not shoot the basketball well. I would assume that if he had played a little bit better and kind of stayed out of foul trouble, he would have got a little bit more run. Now, if we were to bet on him, I think I'd just rather get to his over PRA, but he's really the only one I'm considering betting on for Utah. Worth calling out, Nurk, Love, and Niang are all out for Utah, which should lead to Lauri Markkanen getting a lot of minutes, guys. 34 minutes in this game is what he's projected to get. And it's not like he wasn't seeing those minutes, but because they're banged up, I don't think we really have to worry about those minutes being drastically reduced in a blowout. And then just looking at kind of those ideal and best bets, guys, the best one would be Bryce Sensabaugh to get under his PRA of 13.5. We do see it could end up being tight. He has gotten the over 4 of the past 5 games there, but we saw all the data points considering the matchup and the blowout risk, considering his projected minutes, all are telling us to bet the under. If you guys want to get to that, you can. For New York, I don't think we're necessarily getting any great bets, so let's go ahead and move on into the next game. which will be the Spurs versus the Cavaliers. So guys, the Spurs are still missing all the same players. For the Cavs though, they are pretty darn banged up. So they're going to be without Jared Allen, Darius Garland, Sam Merrill, Nance is still out, Strus is still out. And so there should be a little bit of edges for us here with Cleveland. So one of the players that actually benefits the most points-wise would be DeAndre Hunter. He averages about 4.2 more points per 36 with those players off the court. Has a bump of a 5.6% usage as well. So he's the player that we should be looking at. Although lately, guys, he hasn't been shooting the basketball that much or that well. And so there's a little bit of a concern here. Very high-scoring game, though, so that is appealing to me there. Per 36, he actually averages 23.1 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. He's only projected to get 28 minutes. He could end up getting more than that, and if he does, that ends up being an okay bet. I can see if you guys don't want to target that. I do think it's not a terrible idea to get to for, again, more of a traditional sportsbook bet. Jalen Tyson is someone that's been seeing some more run recently as well with all these injuries, and he's been playing pretty darn well. We see 33, 31, 34 minutes. We only have him projected for 29 minutes, which could end up being wrong. You know, we do want him to get that extra rotation. If he does end up getting 29 minutes, he should be right around this over 13.5 points. His per 36 production is 17.5 points. And so this is a bet that I think I can get to for his over points. His points, rebounds, and assists to me seem to be a little bit too high. Obviously, they go hand in hand, but if you're trying to get to a bet for him, I think we just want to get to his over points. I really don't mind that bet. I think that's a decent bet. Now, from there, we're not necessarily getting a lot of other bets for Cleveland just yet. Like I might be on Lonzo Ball, but it really just depends on where that line comes out to be. So let's go ahead and jump into the other side of this game, guys. Keldon Johnson, his lines have been a little bit too low, I would say, recently. His over 12 points, not a terrible bet. Again, in this high-scoring game, very good matchup. The issue with him has always been the amount of minutes that he will get. 26 minutes is what he's projected to get. Basically, that's what he's going to get. We can't, it's not likely for him to get more than that. We do see that the PrizePicks line is a little bit too low compared to all the other data points coming in. This looks like a pretty darn solid bet. If you want to get to over his points and assists, you can do that as well. Pretty solid bet overall there. And he's someone to just be on the lookout for his over fantasy score as well. Any other players for the Spurs popping up? Not really. I mean, Dylan Harper, if you were to get more minutes than he's projected to get 20, I wouldn't hate it. But I don't think we can really rely on that. And so let's just go ahead and jump on into the next game. Guys, the next game we had the Clippers versus the Grizzlies. Bogdanović is still out for the Clippers. Obviously, Chris Paul is no longer there. For this game, I don't really see much. Memphis is still really banged up there. Maybe we could chase Memphis overs. But again, for this, I'm just going to go ahead and take a peek at the filter call bets. Looking at best bets and ideal bets, we have none. Oh, sorry, we have two in this game. I still had the Harper search in there. Sorry. Edie for under his PRA 27.5. Not necessarily a bet that I want to get to. It's a pretty good match for him. He should be able to get the minutes as well. It's not necessarily a bet that I want to get to. And then John Collins for under his PRA. An interesting bet. He has been very hit or miss. His minutes have been super strange this year. You would expect him to get a little bit more run. He just hasn't been getting it. He's projected for 28. If he does indeed end up getting 28, then he won't get that over. I don't want to get to either of these two guys. If you do, by all means, you can get to those. But yeah, there's just not much there for me to like. Coward's been someone that has tailed off recently for the Grizzlies. Gets a good matchup. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and jump on into another game here. We'll jump into the next one. We got the Pacers versus the Bulls. To me, this should be a very appealing matchup with a very high game total and the game projected to stay close. So we see the first bet that I pulled up, Andrew Nembhard to get over 9.5 rebounds and assists. He's gotten the over the past two games, getting 10. We like that there for him. The nice thing about this game is that it is projected to stay close. He might end up getting a little bit more minutes than what he is projected to get. For Indiana, guys, they are still banged up, just as an FYI. Ben Shepherd is out. Cam Jones, Naismith, and Toppin are all still out. And so Nembhard has been someone that has picked up a bunch of usage. We see this bet here over his points and rebounds is a pretty appealing bet. 51.5% likely to hit. All the data points telling us to bet the over. He has gotten the over recently there as well. Away games, he's been able to consistently get the over there as well. Let's see the rest of the bets that we're getting for Andrew Nembhard. Points, rebounds, and assists here. Interesting. So Underdog has it at 26.5. Really not a terrible game stack bet is what I'm seeing here for Andrew Nembhard just in general. Maybe we get to his points and rebounds, but this is a game where I don't mind attacking it with the stack, and so maybe not a bad idea to get to him. Bennett Mathurin for over his points and assists. He has not been shooting the basketball well recently, guys. Over the last 10 games, only getting the over 40% of the time. We see if we go back further, he was getting the over. So tough for me to necessarily like any bets there for Bennett Mathurin right now. Siakam gets a very good matchup for over his points and rebounds. I like that in a game stack, guys. Most of the data points like this bet as well, but only in a game stack would I get to that bet. For the Bulls, they are having a lot of players that are questionable. So Kobe White questionable, AO questionable. And so with that, it is very tough to tell you guys what to do here. It just is. Like, I can't say much more than that. If Kobe White sits, this bet here for AO to get over 1.5 threes is a very appealing bet to me. Per 36 wise, he does average that over as well. So maybe you take that bet, but he's also questionable as well. So we don't necessarily like that. If they both end up sitting, I would imagine that would give Patrick Williams some more run. He got 23 minutes in the last game, which was a somewhat similar game. So I wouldn't hate that, but it's really predicated on him getting more minutes than the 17 that he is projected to get. Then Nikola Vucevic, like, he is someone that, again, gets a good matchup, very high scoring game. If you want to attach him to an overbet in a game stack, you could do that. I would say this line's correct, although he should be able to take advantage of this matchup. So kind of good bet and also bad bet, but I don't hate it. And then we go ahead and get on into the Sixers versus the Bucks. So guys, we know that Giannis is going to be out in this game, and so the players are going to benefit the most. One going to be Kevin Porter Jr. Tough matchup for him. We're not getting any sportsbook data for him just yet coming in. I do think there's a good chance that he does end up getting over the points, rebounds, and assists line that they have him here for. We don't have a lot of data coming in, but guys, per 36 wise, because he's been injured, okay, so worth calling out. He's only played 4 games and really 2 full ones. And so we look at the game log. The last 2 games have been the only 2 games that he's played full. In those games, per 36 wise, 33.2 points per 36, 2.7 rebounds, 6.6 assists. And so that actually leads me to believe that we'd maybe just want to get to his over points and assists here instead. That might actually end up being a decent edge. I don't mind this. It's a low game total. We don't necessarily like that, but he's going to be someone that has a very high usage rate. And then a little bit annoying right now, we are not getting any Ryan Rollins prop bets. He is someone that averages 42 fantasy points per 36 with Giannis off the court, 23.2 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 7.3 assists. So I do think that they're not going to give us proper lines for him. So that's why I wanted to call that out. And I do just want to get into the Bucks specific bets. AJ Green has been someone that has been going off recently, guys. His per 36 production is 13.5 points, 3.9 rebounds, and 2.3 assists. Now, he's been shooting the basketball extremely well recently, and so he's been getting the overs. I want to call it out 5 for 11, 4 for 8, 5 for 7, 6 for 12. He's just been draining a bunch of threes. And so if we're looking at like an AJ Green bet, we should just be looking on as probably over points. We're not getting that just yet, but like that'd be the one that we'd want to get to the most. And maybe instead we get to his points and rebounds. I don't hate it. Like, he has been shooting the basketball extremely well, but the argument would be that he's due to have a poor night shooting. And then I will say that the lines that we're getting from Miles Turner are pretty darn low. He hasn't been playing well recently in regards to shooting the basketball, but he just hasn't been shooting the basketball all too much. That's really not been his role for the Bucks. We actually saw Jericho Sims have a double-double in the last game. He's actually someone, if you're playing DFS, is a little bit interesting. But Miles Turner, guys, per 36-wise, he might end up getting less minutes than we're projecting, maybe more. It's tough to really say, but he's projected to get 29 minutes. And if he does get those minutes, I actually like the over. Okay, so he averages 16.5 points and 8.7 rebounds with 2.2 assists. And so really, if he gets the minutes, I'd really like that over bet. It's a guess on the minutes. For me, I'm just mostly looking at Kevin Porter Jr. this game right now, but we also could potentially get to also Ryan Rollins as the day progresses. Then on the other side of this game, guys, Andre Drummond over 19.5 points. It is interesting that this line is here, right? We haven't seen him necessarily get a lot of run. He has been playing poorly recently. Joel Embiid is actually expected to play in this game as I'm recording this video. We'll see if that ends up changing throughout the day. He's questionable. We do know that Paul George is currently questionable. And so this is kind of the theme with the Sixers. It's tough to really give advice on what to do with them until we get that information. VJ Edgecombe is someone that really benefits if Embiid and also Paul George are off the court with Kelly Oubre out. And so maybe we get a little bit lucky with some of his bets. If that news breaks our way, you could easily get some decent edges on him if we're early and the lines change. But overall, I feel like it's just a wait and see approach. We don't need to necessarily go in on that. And so we go ahead now and get into the Suns versus the Rockets here. So one of the better bets that we're getting as I'm recording this video is going to be Royce O'Neal to get over his points and rebounds. The concern is the blowout risk here, guys. This is 11.5 point spread. That could end up being more than that. Not a high scoring game as well. But We do know that Devin Booker is out in this game, as well as Jalen Green is still out. Royce O'Neal is someone per 36 wise, guys, averages 14.8 points, 6.8 rebounds, and 4.8 assists. And so this is a strange line for him. Like, I think this ends up being one of the better bets that we were getting on the day. And I'm going 2 for 7 in his last game, guys. Didn't necessarily shoot the basketball all too well. You would expect him to get a few more shot attempts up here in this spot. And so I don't mind it. Over points and rebounds, not a terrible bet to get to. Colin Gillespie is something that it really depends on his minutes. We have him projected for about 28. In the last game, guys, got 34. We see 33, 34. So it really does depend on the minutes. If he ends up getting closer to 34 minutes, obviously he's going to get the over. He does get the most minutes with Devin Booker off the court, averaging 22.7 points per 36, 4.5 rebounds, and 8.3 assists. And so the lines that we're getting for him, to me, are a little bit strange. I actually don't mind his over points and assists. I think this would be the best bet to get to. One of the better traditional sports bets I like, basically a 50-50 split on the day. But again, that's just a bet on those minutes being there. Now, guys, the player that benefits the most, I shouldn't say the most, but like usage wise, guys, Dillon Brooks usage goes up a ton, 13.4% with Devin Booker off the court. The dude is just going to fire a bunch of shots off tonight. And it's just whether or not he's making them. But I think we can expect him to just chuck the basketball up tonight. So his per 36 production with Booker off the court is 35 points. And then about 3 rebounds and about 2 assists. And so if we're betting on him, I think we're just betting on his points. It's a strange one. I don't mind it. He's someone that you could actually end up like juicing up his lines that you're getting. Actually, I'm curious. I never like to get into demon bets, but I wouldn't mind his over 24 points, actually. I think that's actually not a terrible route to go. About a 25% edge for that one to hit, which you don't necessarily love, but I actually don't mind that idea of getting there. If you guys are someone that bets on PrizePicks, I think that's a decent way to go about attacking Dillon Brooks rather than his 21.5 points. But I really don't hate that bet there as well. We know he's going to shoot the basketball a lot and he's projected to get a lot of minutes. I'm okay getting there. It sounds weird betting on Dillon Brooks. We also do have Grayson Allen back, and so Grayson Allen is someone that does see a decent bump in his production with Brooks off the court. Hasn't been doing much other than that. I don't hate this bet, but it's also not a bet that I feel like I need to go out of my way to target. I would say the 16.5 points is actually the correct line, but at that line, I'd be betting on the under. So at 15.5, still a little bit of an edge, maybe a little bit of game stack, hoping that this game stays close enough, more than really what we're expecting. And then also to get over 4.5 points, not a terrible bet here, guys, as well. Maybe ends up getting more minutes than we have projected to get, 17 minutes. If he does get that, I like him a little bit more, but that's just a pure guess. So flipping on into the other side of this game, we are getting some interesting bets, guys. Reed Shepherd to get over 12.5 points and assists, 53% likelihood for that to hit. A lot of the data points that we have coming in are really liking that bet. Steven Adams get over 5.5 points. Really not a terrible bet. Projected to get 23 minutes. If he does end up getting 23 minutes, I actually think that bet ends up being a very solid bet for us. So I'm okay getting to that one. I'm not worried about the matchup too much there. And then I did just go with the filter call-outs here, guys. Best bets, ideal bets. Alfred Sengun to get under his points, rebounds, and assists here of 38.5 is a bet that's popping up. I don't hate it. This is more a bet on the game just being a blowout and then him not necessarily having to play all that much. All right, so now we go ahead and jump on into Dallas versus OKC. So for Dallas, guys, Daniel Gafford questionable, PJ Washington questionable, Anthony Davis is good to go, Cooper Flagg is good to go. So kind of an interesting game here. We do know for OKC they're going to be without Caruso, Dort, and Hartenstein. The best bet that we have pulled up right now is going to be Klay Thompson under 14.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I don't know if I necessarily like this. Klay has been shooting the basketball more recently. His minutes could be lower, though, if PJ Washington ends up playing. Really just depends on how Klay Thompson is shooting the basketball there, though. You could argue that he's shooting the basketball well, he's in a good stretch right now, or the opposite, where he's due to have a bad night shooting. I don't feel like we necessarily need to go out of our way to target that. So let's take a peek at all the other bets that we're getting here in this game. And I don't really like it. I don't think there's much here. Ryan Nembhard is kind of a fun player to be on, but it's a 15-point spread, low-scoring game, tough matchup for him. And so I don't necessarily like it, like in that regard. And so if he ends up getting more minutes than we have projected to get, sure, he should be able to really crush his over here. Just and like, who cares about the point total and point spread? But we only have him projected for 24 minutes. Maybe that ends up being wrong. I think he's a decent DFS play if you guys are someone that plays DFS as well. All right, guys, so we'll go ahead and get into the bet of the day. Just pulling up the generated bet slips here, going with the top bet. And I'll zoom in here for you guys. So these are my favorite bets on the day as it currently sits right now. I did just see Ryan Rollins is at 25.5 points and assists, and I like that over bet there a decent amount. So that's another bet that I like there as well. Lots of bets to get in that I covered here in this video, guys. It's a big slate. But guys, that is going to do it for today's video. If you guys would like access to any of the tools that you saw throughout this video, head on over to 9to5sports.com. You guys will get access to all the NFL tools, all the NBA tools, all of the prop betting and NFL DFS tools, as well as all the fantasy golf tools. Appreciate you guys being here. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.